Okay, Reno, we are now recording. Viewer, welcome to episode 22 of Connection Over Coffee with me, the Loneliness Guy, and Reno, you're here. We're about to get the recording underway, but I don't know if I've got anything else to record because we've just had the best conversation ever, right?
Agreed. Yeah, it was delicious.
Yeah, and viewer on YouTube, I will just share with you one thing before we get into the actual recording. But I work with words, like words and me are like this. And Reno and I, in preparation for his blog post and this episode, have been toing and froing over WhatsApp. And Reno shared with me on Friday, my time last week. It's now Monday morning. Saying that he felt particularly ripe with stories about what we're going to talk about today. So me being me, I just had this sort of image in my head of Reno just being kind of like swelling up, like Violet Beauregard in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So let's see what we can, if we squeeze in what comes out. But I know that it's going to be pretty bloody awesome. So no pressure or anything, Reno.
Careful, don't squeeze me too hard. I might fart.
We will deal what comes out.
Yeah.
I'm the dad of 13-year-old boys, so I'm fully down with all the flatulence.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I give as much. I produce as much as the next 13-year-old. So yeah. God,
what you're saying is you're full of shit. Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah.
Did we need confirmation of it? I'm shocked that I have to say yes. That's true. It's self-evident. It's self-evident.
Me too. Right. That's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's crack into it.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, welcome to Connection Over Coffee with me, Phil McAuliffe, the Loneliness Guy. Today we're having a chat with Reno Johnston. Say hello, Reno.
Hey.
So, Reno, we're going to have a chat today about things to do with courage and how we get in our own way and how we can get out of our own way. But before we get into that, I do need to say that this podcast is all about destigmatizing loneliness and promoting authentic connection for gay men globally. It contains content relating to the mental, emotional, and physical well-being of gay men. Look, if that's going to offend you or anyone in earshot, now's the time for you to move on. But with all of that said, how about you and Reno go get a table and I'll go get the coffees sorted. And then there's like the little break, coffee being made, coffee being sipped on. That is not coffee, Reno.
I cheated.
Yeah. And now, here you go. If this is the first time that you've connected with me over coffee, welcome. I'm so happy and so proud of you that you're here because I know that not many gay men, not many humans actually seek out the content about loneliness and loneliness-related issues. What you've just done in pressing play on through the podcast service or pressing play on YouTube has taken courage, which incidentally is the underlying topic of what I'm going to be talking to Reno about today. But I just want to say thank you and how much I appreciate that you're here. And I hope that you are proud of yourself for the courage and the bravery, even if it didn't feel like it, that it took to simply press play and to join Reno and I for coffee today. Reno, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to start introducing you. So I'm going to let you do it. But I want to simply say to you and to the listener and the viewer that I have the best conversations with you And I just want to like say that the conversations that I have with you, even if they're in like joking or in jest or whatever, you bring this certain innate wisdom that's either communicated through humor or communicated through like these poignant comments that I just sort of constantly throw myself back from the table or like, you know, drop the phone if we're messaging each other and go, shit, that's like so profound. And I'm so, and you just seem to do this like naturally. And I'm so grateful that you're here. And I'm so grateful that you're joining like the stable, I guess, of guests on Connection Over Coffee with like of other gay men who do the same for me as well. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Who are you, Reno?
Well, first of all, if I wasn't already about to explode and sort of gush, that like loaded, juicy introduction like went straight to my head, my heart, probably my belly, all of it. So yeah, thank you. That was amazing. You know, it's funny, as we're sitting down, I was listening to you talk about loneliness, and something came alive in me. And, you know, you asked how I am just now. And I would say like the nature of my being is that I follow what feels alive. I follow this alive sort of spirited energy. And it's like I am the instrument, and that alive energy uses me, and I allow that. So a moment ago, and again, like I don't know where we're gonna go, and I love that I have no idea where we're gonna go.
Yeah.
I was listening to you talk about loneliness, and the thought that came alive for me is like, how many times today, for example, or just in the last week, have we rejected ourselves? Like, how many times have you rejected yourself today? And in doing so, how lonely and disconnected must you feel in those moments? And I was just I was considering, you know, because oftentimes I think about rejection, I think about loneliness, or this feeling of being by oneself, you know, whether it's alone in space or alone in the world or what have you. And I think about the experience of being rejected, and how lonely that can feel sometimes when you feel unreceived, unseen, unfelt, unregarded, unheard. And we often associate that with the other, but how many times have I not seen, heard, felt, you know, how many times have I rejected myself? And how lonely that must be, to be moving around in all of this, because I'm stuck with me, and to not fully embrace and receive myself to begin with.
Yeah.
And so I was just I was you know, I was brought to that idea, and as kind of a starting place, because like I said, we so commonly feel everything sort of outside in rather than inside out. It's like, well, what about choosing you first? What about loving to be in your own company first? Like, what about that? What about getting to know yourself first? What about giving yourself permission, you know, and not rejecting, but receiving yourself first, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. like, viewer, listener, if there was any doubt in your mind about why I wanted Reno to join us for coffee today, like, I really don't know. I've got nothing for you if you still have doubt in your mind. You know, thank you so much for coming. You know, finish your coffee. It's time to go. Oh, Reno, bloody hell! That just like almost broke me. Like simultaneously, like swelling full of like just this awesome goodness within me, and then just like, you know, at once like eager to talk about it, and explore all of that more, because that, you know, no surprises, that's exactly what I seek to do here at the Loneliness Guy, and, you know, in my other loneliness related sites. But also taking a leaf out of your book, feeling the other feelings that come with that. So beyond words, excited, and I think excited barely touches the side. I think thrilled that you've put that so eloquently, that feeling of loneliness, and well, I've got nothing else beyond that. But then also the sadness. And it's not tinged with sadness, it is heavy with sadness. It is not a passing glance at the sadness guardrail. This is, you know, a nigh-on, head-on collision, which makes, with sadness, which makes talking about loneliness and engaging on loneliness, even for me, the loneliness guy who you know, works through loneliness, helps others accept and work through their loneliness, like, I still feel that overwhelming sadness of the failure to choose and the failure to be chosen. And quite often, really often, almost always, when we engage with loneliness, we engage from the perspective of, oh, like, poor me, I've not been chosen. But the key, absolute key, and I would thump the table in emphasis if it wouldn't absolutely stuff the sound up. But you know, it would, like, the key, the taking a step beyond those thoughts and feelings of loneliness, the first step is always choosing oneself first.
Yeah.
You have just like smashed it, absolutely smashed it. And that is why you're here.
Yeah, it's I'm thinking about the other day. So there was a conflict, and beautiful, and you know, we were talking about this earlier in the conversation. Like, honestly, I wish we were recording when we were speaking before, and just always when you and I are speaking, I'm like, there needs to be just this record button that follows us around when we're talking and is in our DMs and reading our messages and being a fly on the wall in our interaction at large, because it's just always funny, wise, deep, juicy, beautiful, delicious. Yeah.
You just got all the words.
Right. And so I had a conflict. There's sort of this triad happening between me and you know, a couple other dear friends of mine. And I remember it was very alive in me, and I had stepped away and I started journaling on my way home. I had left them and I was journaling on my way home because I had a lot to say, and I thought, I'm going to get this written down so I can at least get it out, right? Which we'll get to, bringing forth with what is within you. It's so important, so important. And I'll just say, this has been a practice of mine, whether it's finding an outlet in you know, authentic relating spaces, or heart seed or hot circle spaces, or, you know, but these places, relationships, outlets where my expression is welcomed and can flow. And sometimes that is picking up that little piece of glass and metal, you know, that I carry everywhere with me, pulling up a notepad and just going to town. And so I did that. And one of the things that came up when I was doing that was, I remember saying, I don't feel like they understand what this experience has been like for me. And then another voice went, but do you understand what this experience has been like for you? Have you acknowledged what this experience has been like for you? Have you connected to that? And if not, how do you expect them to know?
Yep.
And I sat and I was like, wow, I haven't acknowledged my own experience. And I had to sit with that and then allow myself to feel everything that I had denied myself. So here I was, longing to be received by these two beautiful humans, but I hadn't even received myself yet, right? And so I'm really noticing this beautiful thing happening right now as a result of these last weeks and months, even having my you know, having my the shell around my heart being broken, and the shell around my being also being sort of gradually and repeatedly chipped away at, is that I'm now in this really humble and noble and dignified space where I am able to see myself and hold myself in a way that I just could not
Yeah.
previously.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing. Like literally holding myself. I do this. I find myself daily on an ongoing basis wrapping my arms around myself and rubbing my shoulders and rubbing myself and placing my hand on my heart and on my stomach, and just really feeling my body, giving myself love, being present to my experience, and also allowing what wants to come through to come through. So I'm not just saying I choose myself, or
Yeah.
you should choose yourself. You choose yourself first. I mean, you hear that all the time, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, the shit belongs on a bumper sticker, and we get it intellectually, but I've arrived at a place, you know, where at least in this moment, and I may forget it as we do, and then we remember and things happen. I'm human. I'm not this enlightened being suddenly who doesn't experience, you know, everything else that other humans do. But right now in this moment, I'm embodying it. I don't just get it intellectually. I'm embodying what it feels like to choose myself. And what is so beautiful about that is that, like, I truly get to know myself, get to love myself, get to explore myself, get to connect with myself, get to appreciate myself, get to discover myself. It's like I'm in this delicious love affair with myself. You know, I think about relationships and how we'll pair up with someone and we'll spend, you know, months, years with this particular person. And at some point, things get a little stagnant and complacent, and we assume that we know the person in front of us oh so well. We've got them all figured out. And sometimes we maybe think that about ourselves as well, because we're in a relationship with ourselves too. And what I'm really having fun with is, I thought I knew myself. I really thought I knew myself, right? And it's like, oh, you know, I know what I'm about. And I do in some ways. But it's like, I'm we're dating again. Reno
Yeah.
and I are dating again. We're like, we renewed our vows. We're like, you know, we started fresh. Like we're just like, we're dating again. And it's yummy. I'm like, who are you? Like, hey, what's up? You know? And also just getting into like the ick and the grit of it, like the parts of me um that are like, it's like, yeah, I'm messy, I'm moody, I can be manipulative, I can be passive aggressive, I can poke at people, I can um you know, I can be totally aloof and absent-minded and just kind of drop the ball, or you know, I wear I sometimes I wear the same underwear like 3 days in a row because COVID, you know, because I can get away with it. Like it's like it's just, it's been so fun getting to know myself again. And then there's this little boy, and his name is Reno, and he still lives somewhere inside of me. And while intellectual Reno was off doing his thing, learning all the things, and you know, trying to create this sort of successful life and identity, um, this little guy, he got forgotten, sort of. It's like he's just like along for the ride, you know. Big Reno's just dragging him along, and he's
Yeah.
like, hey, like, hello, I'm like, hey, can I say something? Can we do this now? um and not always, but a lot. And I am connecting to him again,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. It feels just, I love what he has to say. I love what he has to say. He's brilliant. I love his wisdom. I love his playfulness, his curiosity. I love that he's got like this kind of like dark side to him in a way too. He's cheeky and rebellious, and he can be a little manipulative. Like he likes to get what he wants, and he'll do what he needs to do to get it sometimes, you know. And he's stubborn, and also beautiful, bright, brilliant, just gorgeous, and brave, so brave, so courageous, so expressive, so sensitive, so tender, so intuitive, so aware. um, Love the guy.
Yeah.
We're having so much fun together right now, you know, because I finally gave him a voice. And when I did, at first he was pissed, and then he was sad, and then he was hesitant, and then he was cautiously optimistic. And now we're really having fun. He's like, okay, okay, yeah, okay, maybe I can trust you now. You're listening. You're listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reno, I'm really keen to dig into that some more, because you shared so many things in your blog post
Yeah.
about, what, some sources of shame, some deep
Yeah.
secrets about yourself, and the courage, talking about the courage that it takes to front up as yourself in that moment, and putting that out there on the interweb for people, like essentially random people on the interweb to read, if for all time, or until you say, Phil, can you take it down?
Yeah.
And I love and respect that. I love and respect that, because it's something that I can appreciate through my own lived experience, the willingness to go places where, like, mentally and emotionally and sometimes physically difficult to go because we've been avoiding them for so long, and the stories that we tell ourselves around what things that have happened in our life, the stories that we tell ourselves about them and what we can make them mean. And I want to explore with you now the courage that it's taken for you to not only like engage with that and share it with the world, but also the courage that it's taken to share you with you, the courage that it has taken. And because I'm a fan of the words, let's go to the present progressive tense, the courage that it still takes you to sit with yourself and engage on these aspects of you, your past, your present, that you may not be either entirely aware or with which you're not entirely comfortable. And you might wish away, you might want to project an image of, this smart, urbane, sophisticated man who has his shit together, and, can speak his mind and, drop the mic and walk out going, see ya, see ya bastards, I'm out. And yeah, and I know this, that's not true. Like you're a human, wrestling with parts of you. I'm human wrestling with parts of me. But I want to explore the courage that it takes to stop and explore that some more. No, from the perspective of the viewer, the listener, who might be like me, so awesomely fucking inspired by what you say and how you say it.
Yeah.
And the rich, juicy language, I'm starting to mimic you now, the rich, juicy, delicious language that you use about that. But they can go, as I did years ago, as I started my journey, sitting at the precipice, being fucking terrified to walk into the cave, saying, Joseph Campbell's whole thing, the cave, the treasure that you seek is in the cave that you fear to enter. And so the listener, the viewer might be feeling that they're standing at the precipice, standing at the cusp of entering the cave and going, should I, but I'm scared. You were once scared. You are scared. How do you reckon with courage?
Yeah.
In 50 words, no, I'm kidding. In 50
yeah,
words,
right.
This has to fit on an Instagram post as a quote. So no pressure.
Yeah. 150 characters or less. What is the meaning of life?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. So thank you for that invitation, because what you brought me back to, and first I'm going to start here and then I'm going to go here. So what you brought me back to was little Reno, who I keep talking about. Love him. So precious. And I'm going to go there in a second. But before we got on this conversation, you would ask me when we were speaking. And again, I want to acknowledge that in this moment, it's taking me courage to speak what I'm about to speak, because I'm aware of my surroundings, right? I had a sort of conflict. And actually, let me slow down even more. So in my body right now, I'm feeling heat. My heart is racing. My palms are starting to sweat a little bit. I'm feeling a bit of a sort of shakiness. I'm very aware of my breath and how it's short but I'm also very intentional about breathing more deeply. And I'm noticing the more I bring my attention to my surroundings and the fact that my roommate is in probably the next room, I start to feel even more sort of anxious, like, oh my goodness, because I'm about to, share a conflict that happened between us a moment ago. And then breathing into that. This is called self-regulation, right?
Yep.
So there was a conversation about navigating this sort of smaller space that we're in together and whether or not I could record downstairs. She had intended to prepare a meal, and so I was trying to figure out how we would make this work because I wanted to record downstairs, just better lighting, space, etc. And so she had mentioned that, she was going to be making breakfast and she was going to be showering and that sort of thing. So the next thing I asked was, well, if I were to record downstairs, could you make as little noise as possible, right? And again, that even felt edgy to ask. Everything that I asked felt edgy to ask. Yeah. It required courage to ask. It requires courage to ask for what one wants or to declare what one is experiencing. This is just human nature. So one thing led to another, and the conversation it really escalated. And I found myself speaking some truths and speaking to my experience from this very alive place. So while this is happening, again, body's hot, contraction, expansion is happening in my core. I'm starting to shake a bit because conflict, confrontation, right? And self-regulating simultaneously as it's happening, right? Breathe. So when I say self-regulating, I mean breathing, connecting to my experience, right? And noticing it, being present to it, breathing into it. That whole experience was an act of courage. What I just described in sort of detail and broke down was what courage looks like, and dog in the background. What courage actually looks like. Yeah. What confidence, as we perceive it, appears to be, because an onlooker would be like, oh my gosh, you handled that so well, or like, oh, you seem so like together. It's like I was self-regulating, but I was feeling everything that that another person might feel probably in that interaction, right? And so now coming back to little Reno, because I wasn't always this way. I was sensitive. I was highly aware, highly in tune with my surroundings. Very cautious, like I could read people, environments, feel energy, etc. My sense is that has something to do with probably some of its epigenetics and coming from a family history of abuse and addiction and that sort of thing, and maybe something genetically happening to condition me to be able to survive in environments that are unsafe or something like that. But there's some piece there where I came into this world, it seems, almost immediately, like sensitive, sensual, sexual, intuitive, aware of my environment, discerning, like all of these things. Now, of course, they developed over a period of time for sure. And I definitely didn't have these words. Like, sure, word master now. I always loved words, but I didn't have these words. I was just this little boy who was like, oh, okay, I'm here now, fumbling through life, and
Yeah.
just like figuring things out, you know, feeling through life really is what I was doing. I was really feeling through life, right? And just fumbling sometimes, struggling even, surviving even.
Mm.
And, you know, and you take a kid like that, a boy like that, and you put him into a world like this, and rather, I don't want to say a world like this, because my experience of the world has changed drastically as my perception and I have evolved. I believe we are in heaven on earth and or hell on earth at any given time, depending on our experience. It's not some great out there. It's here now. It's a state of being, and we can ebb and flow in and out of either.
Yeah.
But my environment was a difficult one, and it really challenged me. It brought up a lot of resilience. As I said, we didn't have a lot of money. You know, I came from a poor family in some ways, you know, and sometimes we had money and then we didn't. You know, as far as like the parental situation is concerned, there was a lot of inconsistency. My mom continues to navigate addiction, and also continues to teach me unconditional love through our relationship. And that's a whole other conversation. But, you know, so here's this boy who is just kind of thrown into things and has to feel his way through it all. Now, I was small, brown, effeminate, queer, some might even say, rebellious, expressive. I may as well have had a bullseye on my back, essentially.
Mm.
Like, come get this guy, because I not only was I ripe with potential, but also like I probably triggered the fuck out of a lot of people just by being who I am. It was like, you know, my skin color is a reason to not like me. My, you know, the pitch of my voice was a reason not to like me. My sensitivity was a reason not to like me. My expressiveness was a reason to come for me. You know, and the list goes. My sexuality and my sensuality. Oh, you're too young. You know too much for your age. And there was every reason to sort of come at me. You know, and so every day for me was an act of courage. To be here in the world, to get up and be who I am, was an act of courage. To step out of the door and into the world, knowing that someone might hear my voice and attack me or hate me because of how I sound. Stepping out the door and knowing that someone might see the way I carry myself, or the way I dress, or the way I express, or the color of my skin, or the fact that my nose and my ears and my bottom lip were far too big for my head at that time. You know, the fact that I was this sort of gangly, skinny little kid who, in a way, kind of asked for attention, and not only asked for it, demanded it. It loved me. Um, um, you know, like I was asking for it, you know, just by being who I am. And so every day felt like an act of courage. And then top it off with my anxiety. Like I was very anxious. I dealt with, what do you call it? Obsessive compulsion. So I used to have some of the most morbid and fearful thoughts. Like if there were a storm, I was convinced it was going to be a natural disaster that was going to take out our house and kill us all and my family.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I at one point I like, you know, I would, if I was home alone and I was scared, I mean, I'd check under the bed, behind the shower curtain, in the cupboards. You know, and this was even into adulthood. Sometimes I would sleep with a knife next to my bed because I was afraid, you know, being alone and that someone would come in and I would be harmed or killed or something, right? And I'd go through every inch of the house and make sure no one was hiding in there. In my mind, this all seemed rational,
Yeah.
but it was highly irrational because I'm still here. No one's hurt me. I'm okay, right? But this is what I was dealing with. So again, I emphasize, someone listening might say, oh my gosh, that sounds like hell. It's like, yeah, it kind of was. And the perfect sort of ecosystem, culture to shape the man you see here today, this brave, courageous, resilient, wise, aware, expressive, what have you, man that you see sitting here today. It's like, I didn't have a choice. I mean, I did. I could have checked out, I guess, but also I was, and I'm going to say this with respect to those who are struggling to like not check out, or those who have decided to check out. I'm saying this with reverence, but in respect for that. That was just not an option for me. Like he was just too he was just too much of a badass. It was like, no, we're at this life thing. We're doing this. Like, I'm here. I'm going to do this shit out of this life thing.
Yeah.
And come hell or high water, like bring it on. And I'm tuning into my energy as I'm speaking right now. And I remember you saying, you were like, the blog post, and, it'll be up there until you decide to put, if you decide to pull it down. And there was that little guy in me. He's like, we're never pulling it down. We're never. And anyone who reads that blog post and wants to come for blood because something I said in that blog post was, whatever, like, oh my gosh, you accidentally killed a puppy or killed puppies when you were a kid. Like, shame on you. You're awful, right? Go read the blog post, you guys.
Yeah, you must.
But yeah, but it's like, cool. That, like, we can have a conversation about that respectfully. And if you continue to attack me because you're feeling some kind of way about what I shared, that's on you. I'm going to excuse myself. You do your thing. I'm not taking it down because this is who I am. And this is what personal freedom looks like. It looks like, St. Thomas, we talked about this quote: if you bring forth what is within you, what is within you will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you will destroy you.
Yeah.
And so
I just want to invite, sorry, Reno, I want to invite the listener viewer to press pause and to go back like 15, 20 seconds and write that down.
Yeah.
Write that down, because I was listening to Reno on the Gay Men's Brotherhood podcast, and he said that. And quite literally, I remember, I'm there in my head. I was walking to the train station where I was living just north of Wellington, walking across a bridge, and I stopped dead in my tracks when I heard that and went back. I mean, I did exactly what I've just invited you, listener and viewer, to do. And I'm like, oh my God, yes. And then he said it again in a couple of episodes, and I'm like, oh my God, that's like, yes. Underline that, like italicize it, bold it, do everything to that, like tattoo it to the inside of your eyelids. Because, Reno, what I want to say at that point, and I realize that I've just cut you off. I apologize. But there's a couple of things that I noticed in what you've said. Like, my mind, my soul, like my body is racing in like in agreement with what you're saying. Like, yes, me too. And one thing that I did notice in your share there, like your tremendously powerful, indeed courageous share there about the little boy within, about Reno, little Reno. You kept on using it in past tense, talking about little Reno in past tense. All of that. And like when you hear this episode back, in my view, my experience of you in previous interactions, in this current interaction, like you could substitute all that past tenseness and put in the present tense. And it is still just as powerful, if not more powerful, that in recognizing like who you have been, who you are, you know, you said you came out as, were born as, a sensual, intuitive being, like ready to engage with the world. And don't look now, but you still are a intuitive, sensual being, and it's demonstrated in like simply how you're sitting here and in the words that you use. Like the words that you use, like sensual is a sensual word. Like, ripe, delicious, all this, like the work that you have done, the work that I have done, the work that the listener and viewer may have done or might be sort of teetering on the precipice of wanting to do, that work about the little boy within, that reconnecting with the little boy, can be explained as like reconnecting with who we are. And, we have been how we have been in many aspects. Like, yep, there are undeniably like environmental factors that shape who we are, but then there's also, who we are and who we have come into the world and how we will leave the world. And then sometimes that might be an inconvenient truth, like our sexuality, like loneliness, like that, we are intuitive, we feel other people's pain, we feel other people's feelings, like good, bad, or indifferent. But yeah, Reno, that's just something that really struck me, was all the way through that intensely powerful share, that I was feeling it. I was so feeling it. I desperately wanted to yell out, you still are. You still are. This is you. What has happened is that you have like tapped into who you are by going back into the little Reno within, who I reckon just like, he needed to be at my school, because he would have, like, at Assumption College, Kilmore, in just north of Victoria, that little Reno just would have been awesome. Would have been exactly what the good kids at that Catholic school needed.
I would have rocked their world. I would have rocked their world.
Yeah, right.
You. Yeah,
right. And so in the early 90s, that would have been awesome. But I want to explore. You came up with this awesome concept of heaven. What is it, Belinda Carlisle? Heaven is a place on earth. I'm sorry to you. I'm sorry to the viewer. I'm sorry to the listener for putting that terrible song. Well, I don't like it.
I'm singing it.
Putting it in your head.
Baby, do you know what that's like? Ooh, yeah, I'm singing it. Yeah.
Thank you for singing it, because if I sang it, it would have just ended badly. But the world around us, our lived experience, including in times now of pretty shitty time, like of COVID, of physical distancing, of people, and listeners and viewers included, like being acutely aware of their loneliness, feeling that their world is hellish. But at the same time, the world is heavenly. And it does sound trite, and I kind of feel dirty saying it, but it is true. It is true. And I feel dirty saying it because I know that this is a case of, when you are in the depths of loneliness, when you do feel so utterly, completely unseen, unheard, and you don't feel like you belong, including within yourself, someone on a podcast, someone in a blog, someone going, all it is a change of perspective. It's like, no. Well, yes,
I'd be like, fuck this guy. Yeah, fuck this guy. I'm tuning out. This guy, forget it. Fuck you, dude. Yeah.
But it is. But it is. It really is, because what has, happened to you and the stories that you're telling yourself about how you grew up and who you are as a child and what you are avoiding. What, and this is the St. Thomas quote that stopped me in my tracks, what is with, hold on, I've written it down because I stuff it up all the time. If you bring forth what is within you, what is within you will save you. What if what is within you is you?
Wow.
Then going on with the rest of that quote.
Wait, I need to hold up. Let me sit with that for a moment, because because that's it. And I honestly never thought about it that way. So thank you. Oh my God, that almost moves me to tears. Honestly, I never thought about it that way. I just thought of it as something that needed to get out. But I don't know, something about that moment just now, it's like it almost floored me. Like, it makes me want to cry a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that is it. Yeah, like, bring yourself forward, bring yourself into the world. Like, where you're,
Because if you do not bring forth what is within you, so we can reinterpret that. If you do not bring forth you,
you will destroy yourself.
You will destroy you.
Yes. And listen, we know this because secrets kill. And so there are a few angles here. Think about when you've had something on your heart, on your mind, in your guts, right? And what I mean is, there's something that wants to be said or expressed, and you can feel it. And again, I'm very sensual, right? I'm very sensual. So you can feel it on your heart, on your tummy, in your pelvis, in your shoulders, in your neck, right? So we're carrying creative potential in our cells, in our body. If you don't express that, it festers.
Yeah.
And it becomes dis-ease, is what it is. Disease. Dis-ease is what it becomes. And if it spends enough time taking up space and festering in your being, you will, because this gets me so emotional, because the system, this intelligence called life, called you, called God, called everything, loves you so much that it is designed to let you know when you are not honoring yourself. So your knees will start to give out. Your body will start to fall apart. You'll start to notice that you're getting sickness or ulcers in your tummy. Maybe your eyesight will start to give out. Your neck will start to do weird things. You'll develop psoriasis on your skin. Acne. I mean, the list goes on. The mind is the body is the mind. Everything is everything. It's all connected. And I have frequently said, we are God experiencing and expressing itself. You are God playing with itself. That's really what you are. That's really what all of this is. And so when you stop expressing, experiencing, playing with yourself, and hey, just said it, permission to play with yourself.
Yeah.
Enjoy, have a good time.
Yeah.
You're in trouble. You're in trouble. We're in trouble, And so again, coming back to what I was saying, how beautiful, how intelligent that we are part of this omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, I mean, the list goes on. Intelligence, call it source, God, mother, whatever name you want to call it, whatever name you want to call it, the Big Bang, whatever. And that thing has intelligently created itself in such a way that when you are not honoring yourself, it whispers.
Yeah.
And then it taps you on the shoulder. And then it kind of, pokes you. And then it elbows you. And then it kind of shakes you. And then it might
ring you on the phone.
Right, exactly. And then it calls you.
Yeah.
And it does, and it calls you. It also calls you. And then eventually it takes you out at the ankles or the knees or the low back. But it'll get your attention. It'll get your attention to because it loves you to death. It loves you to death. It will do whatever it needs to do to get your attention and to invite you to live in congruence with that which you are. And you are all of this. You are infinite creative potential manifest in human form. And spend enough time with yourself and maybe move through some of the muck that's there, and like you'll start to see it. And not only that, but you'll start to see that the muck is also part of it. And you'll look at it and you'll go, oh my God, I went through hell when I was a kid, but actually, look what it's done to me. Look who I am right now. You know that this is what happens. But what I want to come back to, taking a deep breath, is I teared up earlier when I connected to that little boy and that teenager and that 20-something who was in that hell. There were moments where I didn't think I was ever. I remember saying to my mom one time in my 20s, I'm scared I'm never going to get my happy back again. I'm scared I'm never going to get my happy back again. I was terrified. I had experienced this great, like an adventure that rocked my world. I spent 12 days in Bali and I came back to my hometown, and I woke up the next morning and I walked out of the bedroom. I could barely get out of bed. And I collapsed on the floor in the fetal position and I cried my eyes out because I had experienced joy, connection, adventure, love, support myself in a way that I never had, and then left the place that I thought was responsible for it. So for months, I thought that all of that was in Bali. And until I went back there, I would never experience that again. My mom repeatedly tried to tell me that it wasn't there, it was in me. You try telling that to someone who's in the thick of it, fuck off. I hear you, but I don't receive it because I can't. Because that sounds great. Put it on a bumper sticker, put it on a fridge magnet. But I'm not there. I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. And by the grace of God, at some point, I was like, oh, I get it now. I get it now. And wherever I go, there I am. If I'm in Vancouver, if I'm in my hometown, if I'm in Bali, if I'm on by myself doing my own thing, like I bring the fun. I am the fun. I'm whatever I want to bring in any moment. I can bring whatever. I am that, you know, and I say that with such passion and conviction now, but listen, it wasn't always this way. It wasn't always this way. So I empathize for the person who is in hell right now, figuratively, and also like really just like I'm in fucking hell right now. It's like, yep, I feel you.
Because Reno, something that you said before, in amongst like the infinite pearls of wisdom, has that really got to me, and it was that you said lack of congruence. You know, being incongruent within yourself, and you know your body will begin to tell you, and you know, it will whisper and then you know do more and more and more to get your attention. I want to bring that to loneliness and connection, because those, for me, the path back to connection, path back to where I am right now, having an awesome conversation, an awesome, like soul-nourishing, soul-gasmic conversation, happened because I listened to my, like, oh fuck, I did not want to be lonely. Did not want to be lonely at all. Lonely people are sad, they're clingy, they're needy, they're, you know, desperate for everything. And yes, I was / still am at times. But loneliness for me, loneliness for you, Reno, loneliness for everybody who is a human, who is listening, gay, straight, male, female, however we identify, whatever, like what it, as a human, loneliness is simply our body's way, our mind's way, our soul's way of going, come back to you. Come back to you. You are, I call it integrity. So like as a result of the program that I did with Mike Campbell and the program that I helped Mike with, you know, it's called integrity, but it's that feeling of being in alignment, where your words, thoughts, and actions align with who you are. So unless you can definitively say, I am this, these are my values, this is what I know to be true for me, they're different, and I'm okay with them being different than yours, Reno, being different to other people's, and going out on a limb, and you know, it's like, but this is me, this is my truth, and engaging with the world, engaging within myself from a place of integrity. At once takes courage, and because there's always that fear in speaking what is going on within us, in allowing ourselves to feel what we're feeling within us, including the negative, the dark. So, you know, if we're feeling sad, if we're feeling lonely, if we're feeling isolated, like all those things that society tells us are bad and we need to like just ignore them or process them really quickly. And so that's when, and I don't know if you've seen this, Reno, but, you know, in things like the Gay Men's Brotherhood and other sites on social media, like that bring gay men together beyond, like, you know, idolation of the body. Like, you know, I am seeing so often, and I don't know if this is me like tuning into the universe, but I'm seeing like so many people are saying, you know, I'm lonely, I need to do this so I'm attractive and my Prince Charming will come along. And I don't want to like spoil my own work, but this is going to be something that I'm going to be writing and podcasting on in a little while. You know, within the first half of this year, is on, you are your own Prince Charming. Yeah. The moment that you are past, like that you recognize that you're lonely and you outsource it to be fixed, like it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It might work, it might feel like it works that way, and it might work that way for 5 minutes, it might work that way for 5 years, it might work that way for 5 decades, who knows? But until you are back in alignment with who you are, who you genuinely, not who you really wish you were, like who you genuinely are, and then work to give the world you, work to give the world give yourself you. And this is the entire topic of a conversation that I had with Steve Seidel on the gift of loneliness. Like, no one wants the gift of loneliness. No one like, you know, me, I spent ages so long ignoring the what was presenting within me as a void, and looking around and going, like, I'm surrounded by people, but why do I not feel seen? Like, why does it feel so empty? Why do I feel like I'm going through the motions? Oh, I'm turning 40, so that's a midlife crisis. Oh well, can't afford a sports car, and whatever. But I'm that was going to keep on going, and it does keep on going. Like those thoughts and feelings of being lonely, being whatever the emotion is, will keep coming at you in lots of different ways to get your attention until you stop and feel them, until you connect with yourself.
The intelligence.
Yeah.
That's the intelligence. Every time I talk about, listen, guys, I'm not, and fuck it if I am, but I'm not religious. Like I'm wearing this beautiful Jesus piece around my neck. I've got this gorgeous cross. I encountered it in like the most random way, and I absolutely love it. And Jesus is actually the background on my phone. You would think I have a Messiah complex. I don't, and maybe I do, but it's more that it represents something to me, this union between the divine and the human, and this sort of connection to all that is, and this relationship to spirit that is it's so loaded for me. It means so much. And so every time I talk about this intelligence, God, source, whatever you want to call it, it almost moves me to rapture, and it almost moves me to tears, even, because it's just so beautiful to me, and it's so perfect that, guess what? If you're listening to this right now, we're talking, and you still want to go and get plastic surgery, buy expensive clothes and cars, kill yourself at the gym, go on diets, like do everything you can to get whatever it is that you want, that will make you feel, that you think will make you feel less lonely or less of whatever hell you're in right now. Like, you are so loved that you're allowed to do that, and go do it, because here's the beauty of the design. All roads lead home. If you don't get it today, tomorrow, next week, next year, next decade, in this lifetime, my belief is that you're going to get it at some point. You will inevitably, there's no way around it, run smack into yourself. And that may seem like the scariest thing on earth in this moment, but once you get that it is, and then it isn't, you're like, oh my God, here I am. Wow, life, whoa. It's like, it's amazing, it's incredible, but you may have to go through all the shit to get there, and maybe you can kind of speed that process up by listening to some of what was discussed here, or hiring Phil or I to work with you. That's a plug. But
seamless, Reno, seamless.
Right. But whatever path you choose, you're on your way. It's just like, but so keep doing what you're doing. Try something different. Hire a coach. Read a book. Join a community. Whatever. You can do things to sort of help the process along. But also, it's all okay. It's just all okay. We're all just here doing the life thing, and you'll get there regardless. You're going there no matter what. Yeah.
I want to. Well, I can't add to any of that because it's like near enough to perfection that we're going to get. Like we're all just doing our life in the gloriously imperfect way, right?
That's it.
I want to change tack for a moment.
Yeah.
And I want to press pause right now because I need to go to the bathroom again. But I am going to ask a question about the courage that it takes to authentically connect. So
excited to talk about this.
And then I will have to wrap it up. But yeah, bloody awesome. I'm loving this so much, but I just do need to go.
I know. I'm gonna pee too.
All right, good. Let's simultaneous.
Perfect.
Be back in a tea.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so viewer, I apologize for not pressing pause on the whole got to go to the toilet thing. But
I love it.
I know. It's like, it's real, it's authentic, it's
yes.
But yes. So Reno just off camera, like while we were paused just for a few moments, it's like, oh my god, I love this. This is so good. And it is. Yeah. It's really good. I'm really enjoying this.
Me too. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the moment where I will edit it out up until. But in changing tact, Reno, changing tact. So tact is like, you know, how one speaks. Tack is changing directions. But yeah. So in changing tact, sorry, I want to take a step back a moment. So I have my values. My values are on the website. So I think it's they're at the page about Phil, and I have there very proudly and declared. And if you know me personally, and particularly if you've worked with me, you know that I put my values up. If you've been to my house, my values are very plain. You know, right next to the TV, so you know they're seen. And I know that when I make decisions based on my values, even like seemingly little decisions or big life decisions, when I make them to my values, I know that I have a higher chance of not regretting my decisions. When I make a decision based on what I think other people expect me to do, or what I think I should do, they're the decisions that I will regret sooner or later. One of those values is, well, there's 6 C's, right? And the 6th C is courageous. And when you have, like, everybody like thinks, yeah, courage, like who doesn't want to be courageous and demonstrate courage and things. I want to say, like, yeah, it is a noble value. It's a noble concept, but fuck me, it's hard. It's a really difficult value to live by. Because while at once it's inspiring and you know, lifts you up, uplifting, all that kind of stuff, it's fucking hard because courage comes up at the most inconvenient times. So, you know, you're at a fork in the road and you have a decision to make, and you could take the easy option or you could take the courageous option. And sometimes the courageous option is often the hardest decision. But I know now within myself, knowing that, you know, the decisions that I've made in life that I've come to regret were made on decisions that I thought was expected of me, or things that I should do, or whatever, not what I know to be true for me. As inconvenient or as difficult at times that might be for myself or for others. So courage, I want to just say that, you know, listener, viewer, Reno, I don't know about you, but I get off on hearing about other people's courage, and I get so inspired listening to how people have lived courageously, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then obviously when it comes time for me, I can prevaricate, I can all that kind of hesitate, as I just said. But courage requires us to get uncomfortable. Courage requires us to be vulnerable. And when we have cultivated an image of having our life fully sorted, of, you know, being loved by everyone, surrounded by people, or whatever the case might be that we're, you know, projecting into the world, it takes courage to come back, to bring forth what is within ourselves. So, Reno, when it comes to courage and connection, what, for you, in your experience, what is the courage that is required to authentically connect to yourself? And according to my 3 pillars of connection, to yourself, those most important to you, and to your community. What's the courage that's required for you to authentically connect?
This is going to sound how it sounds, I guess. Sometimes my insight is so macro that, like, I accept that it may be lost on some. So, but okay, so you were talking about values. We're talking about courage and connection. And you were mentioning your values being sort of written down in certain places and on the website, and, you know, it's sort of there to remind you in the world of what you value. And I say this with respect to a time when not only did that make sense to me, but it's what I was up to. And I'm not saying that it doesn't still come up, but what I'm about to say is kind of nuanced. I don't choose I choose my values, and I don't. What I value reveals itself to me in each moment. And so it's less like I'm moving through life like, I value connection, I value courage, I value, like, I choose courage, but more than choosing courage, or I choose connection, but more than choosing connection. It's like, it chooses me. I say yes, you know? And so that's the distinction, is that, it's like, I'm figuring this all out as I go. It's all revealing itself to me in each moment. So what I value, I can speculate, but, like, in the now moment, in this now moment, like, I'm showing you what I value in my being. So, like, right now, I value connecting with you. I value conversing with you. I value expressing and speaking honestly. I value orange, the color orange. I value this top knot. You know, and in the next moment, I might value the part of me that's like bitchy, you know, or something. Who knows? And that doesn't cancel out the fact that I have this beautiful capacity for connection and courage, but also to be a bitch, right? And that's what's so exciting about all this, is that in any given moment, it's all revealing itself to me. And so I'm just along for the ride. And I think for some people that can seem kind of, it's like, what is this guy what are you talking about? You're along for the ride. Like, I control my life. I decide my life. It's like, yeah, kind of. And there's this other place that I find myself functioning more and more from, where it's like today, perfect example. We'll talk about connection here. I was on a group call that I participate in every Sunday, and this is new. There's a guy on there who was the only person I hadn't been put into a Zoom breakout room with. And so today, what felt alive in me, and again, what I'm pointing to is really the essence of how I move through life, which is I am moved through life. In that moment, what was alive in me was to speak into the space that I had not yet had a chance to be partnered with this gentleman, and that I really wanted to. And so I just said it, and we ended up being paired together. And wouldn't you know, he was so grateful that we ended up being paired together and that I had said something, because he said he felt so timid around asking that and had longed to connect with me as well, because he had felt some synergy between us unspoken. And so here we are. And in this exercise, this authentic relating exercise that we're doing in this breakout room on Zoom, one of the first things he says about me, as we're reflecting what we see in one another back to each other, is my bravery. He says, I see someone who was once a brave little boy who has become a very brave man. And I thought, wow, like one of the first things he says right out the gate, right? And he so appreciated that I spoke into that space what I wanted. And
Yep.
sometimes that, and not just sometimes, oftentimes, it is an act of courage to say, here's what I want. Here's what I want. Here's what I desire, right? I love money. I want money. I want clients. I love money. I love clients. I love getting to do the work that I love. I love attention. I love being held. I love, when someone, I want you to nourish me. I want you to praise me and speak to the parts of me that you appreciate. Like, there's something really vulnerable about that, because maybe no is the answer. It's like, that's edgy.
Yeah.
But so all that to say, I ended up having this remarkably profound and quickly deep connection with this guy who I had never really engaged much with. And we were both astounded by how quickly we went there. Like, and when I say we went there, like, I mean, we were both kind of in tears at one point. Like, it was just this incredibly beautiful, rich, deep connection. And I said to him, this is what I wanted to share. I remember when we were paired together initially, because we connected after the call as well. And that was something I jumped on. I just said, hey, like, let's keep this going. Another sort of act of courage in a way. But what I said when we were brought back into the main room as a group, the first thing I said, they asked, who wants to share what their experiences was in the breakout rooms? And I said, I immediately wanted to go first. And I said, I got to be honest. I said, I'm in love with you, Andy. And it was the most honest thing that I could say in that moment. And I know that as the words left my mouth, there was a voice in my head that went, what did you just say? Like, that's so wrong for so many reasons. And like, and like, what if you get rejected? What if you've just made him uncomfortable? What if he doesn't receive what you said? Right. So all of that was there. Well, it turns out he really appreciated it. He really appreciated it. And it all of this gave way to this beautiful connection. And now I have this fabulous person who I'm connecting with in this quickly rich way. Like, that's what's on offer. That's what's on offer when you play this way and allow yourself to be played this way, by life. Yeah.
That's absolutely beautiful.
Follow the curiosity, follow the intrigue, follow the alive energy, let it move you, follow it, follow the edginess, all of, like, follow the feels. I'm sensual. I am feeling my way through life. That's literally what I'm doing. Yes, I'm intellectual, and also sometimes I feel like I speak in a language people don't get, because it is very sensual, but it's like, I'm mostly feeling my way and tasting my way through life. Life is just like I'm a receptacle, and life is just like feeding me, and I'm sort of tasting it. And it's, I'm just tasting and feeling my way through life. Like, that's what's up. Yeah.
That's awesome, and again, is reflected in the words that you use: ripe, delicious. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
one thing that occurred to me. Well, sorry, before I go there, that I fully agree with what you just said, as exemplified through your share there.
Yeah.
I have found in my life that through this work that I'm doing here, that's public, and the work that I do within myself, and how I want to live life as me, I find myself having these kind of conversations regularly, and I get feedback from you, listener, from readers, from viewers, saying that, you know, I feel seen, I feel such a strong connection to you. I get that frequently, and I'm still learning to accept that. And my quip as a response is, well, I'm being me. I'm being me, and you know, it's extremely gratifying that you feel connected to me by me being me. I'm not projecting, and I'm not saying that, you know, I'm feeling great when I'm not feeling great, etc., etc. And that people respond to me brings me so much joy, and that sense of connection. But it's not always like that. It is not always like that. And indeed, it has been and continues to be a very hard struggle within myself that goes quickly to my sense of worth.
Yeah.
When someone goes, no, 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 no. And like intellectually, I know that, you know, how I engage with people can go many different ways, but sometimes it can absolutely freak the shit out of someone. I see people, you know, as demonstrated in this conversation, Reno, I listen to the words that people say, because there's such a powerful signal in what's actually going on within them. And I'm deeply curious about what's going on. I'm curious about what's going on within me and why I am like I am. And I'm deeply curious about why other people are like that as well. And if someone's not ready for that, and I fully get this, or you know, me doing that has transgressed a border, a boundary that someone has. You know, obviously, I need to honour and respect other people's boundaries, as I need to honour and respect my own, and have other people respect my own boundaries. But sometimes when people aren't ready for it, and I get this, apparently loneliness is one of those, and offering help and sharing my experience is a lightning rod for some people. And I like, intellectually, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, here I am, I'm trying to help people by saying it's okay. I'm trying to, you know, destigmatize loneliness and promote authentic connection. Some, you know, pundits on social media go, well, who the fuck are you to be saying this? I'm like, okay, who else is doing this? And I know now, I know that that is a response from themselves, that, you know, me saying what I'm doing, writing what I'm doing, you know, being here can actually trigger people, because I give them, my presence gives them one less place to hide, one less place to believe, like, I don't believe your bullshit. And you know, if you've earned that right, if we're close enough, I'm going to call you on that bullshit and say, no, I'm not buying that. Not buying that at all. You deserve more than that for yourself. And I'm not going to, like, we're not going to form any kind of relationship based on you pretending. I would much rather know who you are rather than get to know the image of what you're projecting yourself to be. But that can freak the shit out of someone. And me, within me, and this is tying into your point, Reno, in that Zoom call and that breakout room, and speaking up and saying it, and then wrapping up with, you know, I'm in love with you, Andy. We can spend our lives fearing the pause. And if we get, our phone, when we're sending something on message, like on Facebook Messenger or something like that, and they're typing in this, the 3 full stops that just do that.
God. That's hell on earth. Those are hell on earth.
in life, as on Facebook Messenger, we fear the pause, and we can spend our entire life avoiding the pause. Because the pause, the fear is real, because we have put ourselves out there in some kind of vulnerable way as a way of connecting. And when we fear that, it stops us from putting ourselves out there. So we can spend our life on that surface, on that safe space where we know what the response is going to be. We can talk about, the things that everyone around us agrees are good things. So, whether that's like what's on TV, like we can spend our entire life on water cooler conversations. We can spend our, on hookups, like talking about hookup, successes and failures, and gossip, and I don't know, sport, whatever it is. We can spend our entire life at that level and never go below, because we fear that pause. And I can say this to you, Reno, I can say this to you, listener and viewer, that those who are ready will meet you at the beyond that pause. You will be greeted with the awesome words, the delicious words, if I can use your words, Reno, about it's like me too, or words to that effect. Welcome then, gentlemen, and any ladies listening, to connection, to real connection. And you have been courageous in speaking a truth about you, in listening to the vibe of the thing, to the universe, to God, to whatever, to that voice within is saying, go there, go there, go there. And that's where connection awaits. Well, connection happens. And so if you are sort of on the precipice going, I know that I'm lonely, but I need to do something about it. It's like, say something, take a step. It's terrifying, but those who are willing to, who are also waiting to go deeper, will honor your courage and reward your courage by meeting you where you want to go. This dead air is terrible for a podcast. Can I just say? I can see what you're doing. You're letting that sink in, but dead air is terrible for a podcast.
I know. Well, and the irony is we just talked about the pause, right? That's so funny.
Yeah, I know.
It's how ironic. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's just so much there.
Isn't there?
I was thinking about connection, right? Like, do you ever just stop and think about the words that we throw around, and what does it actually mean? Like what's connection?
God. All the time.
Right? And I was sitting with this and I'm like, well, what's connection to me? And what's alive for me is it's like relationship too. I'm thinking about what you said earlier, because we often associate connection with like other person, right?
Yeah.
We personify connection, but like it, I just think about this. It's so hard to put this into words, but it's like connection to me is synonymous with the all. People ask like, well, what is spirituality? Well, to me, spirituality is a recognition of the connection of all things. It's a recognition of all things being connected, all things being one and in unison, and intelligent and worthy and of value, and so on and so forth. It's like and a reverence for that, and so to me, like, connection is the same. It's just sort of this eh, I honestly, I'm at a loss of words,
Mm. Mm.
because to me, connection is, it's like, it's everything. It's
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
connection is like, and what I notice is that when, say, because what came up for me when you were speaking was this idea that, let's say, we put ourselves forth, and then there's the pause, and we feel the tension and the discomfort in the pause, in the space, right? Like, oh, what's going on? What's happening? I've got to fill this. I've got to fill the space. I've got to fill the space. God is in the nuance. God is in the space. Like, there's actually something really beautiful in there that if you like spend some time with, it's like, ooh, there's a lot in there. You're not, and the fear is that in the space we've lost connection. And if you think connection is out there, or in that person, or in their response to the thing that you put forth, then yeah, you will think you suddenly disconnected, or that connection is something that can be taken away from you. But everything is everything, and you are everything, so you're never not connected. But if you're not present to everything, and you lack reverence for everything, then yeah, you're gonna feel disconnected in space and silence and pause, for sure.
Yeah.
But in the pause, I get to meet nothing and everything, and myself. And I'm saying all of this, and I acknowledge that, like, I have trouble sitting still. I scroll, like, I'm constantly before bed, like, on my phone, just, scrolling and texting and looking at little short videos and this and that and the other thing. So don't think that I'm sitting here and again, I'm this like enlightened guru who's got it all figured out and doesn't do all of these other bullshit things.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of rejection. I stir the pot, I fuck up, I scroll, I snack, I stay up way too late, I feel jealous, I feel anxious when I send off a message and someone hasn't replied yet. Like, I'm not human, and I see all of this, and I have sort of an insight around it,
Yeah.
where I can just like appreciate it. It's like, yeah, we're all kind of fucked up, guys, and that's great. It's beautiful. Like,
Yeah.
that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like so, like, just here, like so present.
Mhm.
And this is, I hope, has been a conversation that has been helpful, like, and
Yeah.
indeed inspiring, to the listener and viewer, because
And
yeah,
yeah.
go on.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt you, but what I did want to say, Phil, is like, I really want to take a moment to appreciate you, because I don't even think, I'm almost certain it's not even something you think about doing. I think it's just who you are. You have this incredible capacity for curiosity, insight, like intuiting into, um, and there's something about you where when I'm engaging with you, or even thinking about you, I feel held and I feel seen. And it's not like again, I come back to, I really don't see it as, it doesn't feel forced, doesn't feel false, doesn't feel like pretense, and it doesn't feel like something you're trying to do. It's just who you are. And I appreciate that about you so much. And I feel that in this interaction with you as well. Like, you have held the tsunami supernova, or sometimes tsunami, sometimes supernova, life force that is that is Reno, and everything he has to say, and the ways he wants, and you guided it, and you held it, and you saw it, and it's just beautiful. And you always do that. It's who you are. And I so appreciate that about you. I feel deeply grateful, lucky, blessed, appreciative, honored to call you my friend, and to have connected with you, and to be on this, in this conversation with you, and your audience, your people. Yeah.
Deliberately pausing there to hold the moment, but Reno, thank you. That's really all I can say. Like, I feel that, and me being me, sharing courageously, I have to work on accepting those.
I know. Yeah.
I have to work on accepting those. So, which seems to be, as an Australian man, like the most un-Australian thing to do is to accept a compliment. Because, oh God, no, like, heaven forbid you get a big head and get ahead of yourself. So it is a constant work on for me to accept compliments, to accept.
The shaman in me wants to, like, boom, blast energetically blast through your chest and just bust your heart right open. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That kind of sounds like it would hurt.
Oh, it would hurt so good though. But yeah, but what I mean to say is, like, I'm so excited for that journey and that process of that, like, receptivity of the love that you that so many people probably feel for you. Like, I have so much love for you. I have so much love for you. It's
Reno, it's I'm not going to lie, and I've been trying. I'm trying to wrap this up. So, you and the viewer and the listener can get on with their days. And I'm like faint from hunger, but
me too.
I want to share this, is that when, like, I hustle to prove my worth, and when someone gives feedback that speaks to an abundance of worth, it can sit awkwardly within me, and this is like such a rich vein for future content, but I simply want to say that sometimes my capacity to do this work, my capacity to see other people, my capacity to be seen, and I'm getting a little emotional right now about this as I'm saying it. Like, this is a deep truth within myself. Like, I scare myself, and so it is often far easier to stay small, to stay quiet, to say nothing, to go to make the easy choice or whatever. And linking it back to the topic, it can take an enormous amount of courage within me to not only wrestle with the dark in me, but to any kind of engagement, wrestle or otherwise, with the light, with my power.
Yeah. And to be in the world as you. Yeah. I scare when you said you scare people, I know I scare people. I know that some people look at me and they run the other way because I see them and I feel them, and they look at me and they see what I see and they're like, nope, I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that. And I'm like, that's okay. I used to take it personally. Yeah, or that, exactly. And I used to take that personally and go, oh my gosh, I'm scaring people. I need to turn it off. I need to turn it down. I need to put it away. And it's like, no, I don't actually. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
And it's not personal. I get that it's not personal. They'll come
Yeah.
around or they
Yeah.
won't. That's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, but I'm going to
Which
keep being me and you're going to keep being you.
that's and we all need people in our lives who go, you know, you're not this. You are
Yeah.
capable of more.
Yeah.
Calling you on your bullshit and
Mm-hmm.
bringing you forward. And listener, viewer, that's something that I seek to do for you. I hold that space for you. And if you want to engage in a safe, private place with the connection, sort of bumbling your way through life and not knowing how to take a step forward, join the rest of us who are a small group of guys, small group of gay men who are premium members of the Loneliness Guy, and join our small Facebook group where we are bumbling our way, myself included, through life and have accepted the gift of our loneliness and then are working on what's next. And with 2021 being the year of authentic connection at the Loneliness Guy, we're doing authentic connection. We are supporting each other, holding each other to account as we give the world the best of ourselves, including ourselves, the best of ourselves. So it's tempting to do it alone. It's tempting to fix loneliness alone, but that completely misses the point. The point of recognizing that your loneliness is to reach out and get the connection that you need within yourself, with those most important to you, and with your community. I've got that space. Check it out on thelonelinessguy.com and click on the links for join the community. And there's going to be links on this episode description below. But Reno, you're also on the Gay Men's Brotherhood podcast.
Yeah, I am.
And active in the Gay Men's Brotherhood, which I know that many of my listeners are also active in. But yeah, where else can we find you?
Yeah, so I mean, feel free to slide up in my DMs, as they say, on Instagram at itjustgotreno. You can also find me on Facebook. Reno Winston is my personal Facebook name. Feel free to hit me up. And then I have a Facebook page as well, which is It Just Got Reno. So Instagram and Facebook are like the best places to reach me. And if you want to email me personally, I do check my inbox. It's itjustgotreno@gmail.com. Yeah, I always love, if you're listening and, you know, something that I shared resonates with you, or you have a question about something, or like, the work I do, it's not what I do. It's like, it's who I am. And I know you get this, Phil, because I feel like it's the same for you. It's just like,
Yeah.
what else is there? Like, what
Yeah.
else is there? This is what we do with people, you know, so much so that we can't not do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you felt aligned with anything that like myself or Phil has shared here today, like, you know, courage, hit us up, reach out, like, follow that curiosity, follow that vein of inspiration, of resonance, of curiosity, and follow it courageously. So, and connect, and you don't have to know what's going to happen in a conversation with Phil or a conversation with Reno. Just let that energy move you in the direction of what feels alive, and see where it takes you. That's, I mean, if you take anything from this whole conversation and everything I've said, that's how I live. That's like, in a nutshell, that's it right there. Do that and keep doing it, and you will live a beautiful, inspired life. Like, that's it. That's what I'm all about. Yeah.
Reno, I love and appreciate you. Thank you so much for being you and for being you on this episode of Connection Over Coffee.
Thank you. It's an honor. Yeah. Hmm.
And we're feeling that right now. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
And if you're on YouTube, thank you so much for spending time, part of your day with us. Catch you next episode.